DeAndre Ayton, he got a lot of flack for being picked before Luka. He got a lot of flack for being picked before people like Trae Young. He proved in, I think, these playoffs so far what he means to this team and the role that he plays, because he is that franchise level center that, is going to make those plays, going to get those blocks, going to get 20 rebounds a game in these Western Conference Finals to make the difference for your team. Because if we're being honest, this team is not in the position it's in without someone like DeAndre Ayton producing to the level that he was producing at, especially in the Western Conference Finals. So he deserves a lot of credit. We know he got that last second alley-oop, the valley-oop as they're calling it now. So big ups to him and big ups to this team as a whole for what they've done.
So I like you did make a lot of good points. One thing I'm just going to tell you is number one, if we do, whoever comes out of the East, I think Atlanta, obviously, with the youth factor in it, Atlanta, I think, would struggle a little bit more against Phoenix in the finals. Now, Milwaukee would be an interesting one to me just because when I think about Milwaukee, they have gone to game sevens, but look at who they took to game seven. They did sweep the Heat in the first round. And one thing that Milwaukee offers that this team, that the Suns have not seen, is you highlighted it right before. Nobody has been more important, as much as Devin Booker and Chris Paul have been just the driving force behind it. No one's been more of an unsung hero than DeAndre Ayton. And that he offers a different kind of, like, Giannis offers a different kind of challenge for him. That's the only thing I'm going to say. I don't know if his impact can be as great just because the game is more, because it's shifted to more of a perimeter game. A lot of teams don't play as much of the, throwback slasher, I'm going to get to the basket. Like a big man is going to, get to the basket. He's going to catch the ball 5 to 10 feet away from the basket, put his head down, either back a guy down or just take it to the hole the way Giannis does. And so that's why I feel like Giannis, like, that's an interesting matchup for them, because that team is built almost to take on a team like Phoenix, just given how well they play defense with their length and everything like that. And they have a player, Giannis, realistically during the regular season, he can average 35 and 12. Like, that's a realistic thing for, if he goes out every night and says, I'm getting 30 to 40, he can do it, because you can't stop him. Like, the only one that can stop Giannis is Giannis. So that's the only reason why I think Milwaukee would give them more of a challenge. And Milwaukee's a better team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no doubt.
That's number one. The other thing I was going to say was DeAndre Ayton, dude. The reason why I feel like I hate the fact that a lot of people point, like, they've been like bringing up how DeAndre Ayton, he was a surprise. The dude, as a rookie, averaged 16 and 11. Like, yeah. He averaged 18 and 12 a second year. Mm-hmm. He flew under the radar because the team was not really doing that well. And because, once again, what do people fall in love with? They fall in love with the flashy passes, the step backs and everything like that. This is not the game is not what it was 20, 25 years ago. And it's not as predicated around big men, where a guy like DeAndre Ayton, he can have as big of an impact as he's having and completely fly under the radar and average almost 20 and 12 and completely fly under the radar, A, because his team isn't doing that well, and B, because he just doesn't get as much hype as a guy like Luka and as you're seeing Trae Young.
And I think like you hit on it earlier, the reasoning that he doesn't get that hype, or the reasoning he got a lot of criticism early on, was, I think, because a lot of it had to do with the position he played, because he was a center. He wasn't this, this elite offensive juggernaut like Trae Young developed into. He wasn't this, what some people thought to be an almost finished product in Luka Doncic, who had been playing against, big, like, adults like for the past 5 years before he went into the NBA draft. Like he didn't have that coming out. And, and we fall in love with point guards. We fall in love with the flashiness, the scoring. Like Luka Doncic came out and he had, like, I think, like, what did he do? He had, like, the most 40-point games that a rookie has ever had in the league in his first year. So like, it's easy to get lost in the flash. It's easy to get lost in how good these guys are, because Trae Young and Luka Doncic are two of, I think they're going to be like the two of the most defining figures of this era of basketball. And that's not to say DeAndre Ayton isn't, but I think that's kind of the reason why you saw DeAndre Ayton before these playoffs kind of slip under the radar. Because even when you were talking about the Suns, Andrew, you weren't talking about DeAndre Ayton. You were talking about guys like Chris Paul. You were talking about guys like Devin Booker, obviously. So he was someone who slipped under the radar. But I think the Valley Oop, especially, just the image, he needed that. He needed that image. He needed that moment to, I don't even want to say salvage, but like I think in the amongst reputations as a number one pick, be mentioned in that category of player, you know? So that's what I think about that.
Absolutely, dude. I mean, you just look back, dude. Number one player coming out of high school, number one overall pick. The talent was there, dude. It's just, oftentimes, you got guys who are good enough, and it's either A, because they're just not, the media doesn't push them enough, and a lot of people don't give them as much hype as they should. And what I'm happy about DeAndre Ayton, I'm happy seeing this for DeAndre Ayton because I know this is going to help springboard him, and it's going to help, there's going to be a lot more people who are going to start paying more attention to DeAndre Ayton and the kind of talent that he is. And DeAndre Ayton, dude, guys like him and Giannis, if DeAndre Ayton continues to ball out and Giannis could get his team to the finals, we might actually begin to see, maybe the big man, like the big of the big man position, so to say, as much as it's lost importance, it could begin to gain importance again in the NBA as we see a lot of times that stuff shifts.
Yeah, because it is cyclical. We went through an era in the '90s, especially where centers were exceedingly dominant. Or like '90s into or '80s into the '90s. So and then it switched over to guards, switched over to small forwards for a while. So like you're right, sometimes those things change. Let's kind of shift gears, stick with this, but shift gears a little bit and talk about the Suns. Now, I said earlier that I think they are the best team left in these playoffs. And as far as an outlook for them in the finals, because we don't know who's going to win in the West yet, or sorry, the East yet. That's still to be decided. But one thing I can tell from both of the teams that are left, the Hawks and the Bucks, you and I hit it earlier, the Hawks probably are an easier out for the Suns, just given how, again, young that team is. And Trae Young, at the end of the day, he can't do it himself.
They're too reliant on him.
They're too reliant on him. Yeah, it's a very similar dynamic with the Dallas Mavericks and Luka Doncic. But with the Bucks, you're right. I think they do offer a different perspective. They offer a different challenge to this team. The only thing I will say, though, is that's if Giannis is healthy and if Giannis is at 100%. Because we saw, like, earlier this week, Giannis, man, he twisted that ankle or hyperextended it. So that might play into it. Thanks for watching this video from Real Take Sports Talk. Remember to like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you get notified whenever a new video is released. Also, remember to check out our live show every single Thursday at 8 p.m. right here on the YouTube channel. And remember, keep it real.